The sharp crack of flesh against flesh echoed through the quiet park, shattering the afternoon calm like a thunderclap in a clear sky. At 89 years old, Eleanor Hayes, a retired teacher with a lifetime of molding young minds, felt the sting bloom across her weathered cheek. Her glasses knocked askew by the force of the blow. But as the stranger, a wild-eyed young man in his 30s, his face twisted and rage reared back for another strike. Eleanor's steady gaze met his, and in that frozen moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. She didn't flinch. Instead, Eleanor straightened her posture, her frail frame belying the unbreakable spirit within. "Young man," she said softly, her voice a gentle stream cutting through the storm of his anger, "what pain has brought you to this?" The attacker paused, his raised hand trembling, as if her words had pierced something deep inside him, something he hadn't expected to confront on this ordinary day. Eleanor had always been a beacon of patience and understanding. Born in the dusty plains of Kansas during the Great Depression, she learned early that life was a harsh teacher, but kindness was the greatest lesson. She became an educator not out of necessity, but out of a profound belief that every child deserved a chance to bloom, no matter how thorny their path. For over 50 years, she taught in small-town schools, guiding generations through arithmetic and literature, but more importantly, through the trials of growing up. Now, in her twilight years, she spent her days volunteering at the local library, reading to children and sharing stories that carried whispers of wisdom. The park where the incident unfolded was her sanctuary, a place where she fed the ducks and watched families picnic under the sprawling oaks. It was here, on a bench etched with memories, that the stranger had approached her. He hadn't said a word at first, just loomed over her like a shadow detached from its owner. Eleanor had been lost in a book of poetry when he struck, his palm connecting with her face in a burst of unprovoked fury. Bystanders gasped, frozen in shock, but Eleanor felt no fairly a deep, instinctive curiosity about the soul before her. As the young man stood there, breathing heavily, Eleanor's mind raced back to her teaching days. She remembered faces like his, the troubled boys who lashed out because the world had lashed them first. There was Tommy, who had thrown desks in rage after his father left, or Maria, who hid her bruises under long sleeves. Eleanor had always responded with calm, drawing out their stories like threads from a tangled yarn. Now, facing this stranger, she drew on that same well of empathy. "Why did you hit me?" she asked, her tone devoid of accusation, laced instead with genuine concern. The man blinked, his aggression faltering. You don't even know me," he muttered, his voice cracking. "That's right," Eleanor replied. "But I know hurt when I see it. Sit down, if you will. Tell me your name." He hesitated, glancing around at the gathering crowd, phones raised like weapons. But something in her eyes, perhaps the absence of judgment, compelled him to lower himself onto the bench beside her. His name was Marcus, he revealed haltingly. A mechanic by trade, but unemployed now, drowning in debts and regrets. His life had unraveled, a divorce, custody battles, the loss of his home. Today, the final straw had been a rejection letter from yet another job interview. "I just snapped," he admitted, staring at his hands as if they belonged to someone else. "You were just there, old lady. I'm sorry." Eleanor nodded, her cheeks still throbbing but her heart aching more for him. "Age doesn't shield us from pain, Marcus, but it does teach us to carry it better." She shared a snippet of her own story, how at 25, she lost her husband in a farming accident, leaving her to raise 2 children alone while pursuing her teaching degree. The nights of despair, the days of forcing smiles for her students. "I could have let bitterness win," she said, "but I chose to see the light in others. It's what kept me going." As they talked, the park's atmosphere shifted. The ducks quacked softly by the pond, children laughed in the distance, and the sun dipped lower, casting a golden hue over everything. Marcus's shoulders slumped, the rage draining from him like water from a cracked vase. He spoke of his daughter, Lily, only 7, whom he hadn't seen in months due to the custody fight. "She loves stories," he whispered. "Used to beg me to read to her every night." Eleanor's eyes lit up. "Stories are bridges, Marcus. They connect us when words fail." She pulled out the poetry book from her bag, its pages worn from years of use. "Would you like to hear one? It's about forgiveness, not for others, but for ourselves." He nodded, and as she read aloud, her voice weaving through verses of redemption and hope, tears began to well in his eyes. The poem spoke of shattered mirrors reflecting broken souls, yet piecing them back with threads of grace. By the end, Marcus was weeping openly, his face buried in his hands. "How can you be so kind after what I did?" he sobbed. "Because, dear," Eleanor said, placing a gentle hand on his arm, "we're all students in this life. And sometimes, the hardest lessons come from the unlikeliest teachers." The crowd had dispersed by now, sensing the crisis averted, but one onlooker remained, a young woman in her 20s, hovering nearby with a concerned expression. She approached tentatively as Marcus wiped his eyes. "Ma'am, are you okay? I saw what happened. Should I call the police?" Eleanor smiled warmly. "No need, child. We found a better way." But the woman insisted on staying, introducing herself as Sarah, a nurse from the nearby hospital. She checked Eleanor's cheek, applying a cold compress from her bag. As she did, Sarah shared that she had been walking her dog when the slap occurred, and it reminded her of her own grandmother, who had passed away recently. "She was a teacher too," Sarah said softly, "always calm in chaos." This unexpected connection deepened the moment. Marcus, still emotional, apologized profusely to both women. Eleanor encouraged him to seek help therapy, job counseling, and even offered to write a reference if needed. "You've got strength in you, Marcus. Use it to rebuild." As the sun set, painting the sky in strokes of orange and pink, the three sat together, sharing snippets of their lives. Eleanor felt a surge of purpose, reminding her why she had dedicated her life to teaching, not just facts, but humanity. Marcus left with her phone number, promising to check in, his steps lighter than when he arrived. But as Eleanor made her way home that evening, a nagging thought lingered. The slap had been more than random. In Marcus's eyes, she had seen a flicker of recognition, as if he knew her from somewhere. Shaking it off as imagination, she settled into her cozy armchair, reflecting on the day's events. Little did she know, this encounter was merely the beginning of a deeper unraveling. The next morning, Eleanor woke to a knock at her door. It was Sarah, the nurse from the park, holding a bouquet of flowers. "I couldn't stop thinking about you," Sarah said. "And there's something I need to tell you." As they sat with tea, Sarah revealed she wasn't just a passerby. She had been searching for Eleanor for months. "My grandmother was your student back in the 1960s. Her name was Clara Thompson. She always spoke of you as the teacher who saved her life." Eleanor's heart skipped. Clarice, she remembered the shy girl from a troubled home, whom Eleanor had tutored after school, encouraging her to pursue nursing. Clara had thrived, but they lost touch over the years. Sarah continued, "Grandma passed last year, but in her will, she left something for you, a letter and a keepsake." The letter, yellowed with age, poured out gratitude. How Eleanor's kindness had pulled Clara from the brink of despair after her parents' divorce. "You taught me that words can heal," Clara wrote. The keepsake was a simple locket, engraved with "To my guiding light." Tears streamed down Eleanor's face as waves of emotion crashed over her. This twist Sarah's appearance shifted her perspective, reminding her that the ripples of her actions extended far beyond what she could see. It amplified the humanity in yesterday's events, showing how interconnected lives truly were. Inspired, Eleanor decided to reach out to Marcus. She called the number he had given, and they met again at the park. This time, he brought Lily, his daughter, her eyes wide with curiosity. Eleanor read to her from the poetry book, and as Lily giggled, Marcus confided more. His ex-wife had been abusive, echoing his own childhood traumas. "I don't want to pass that on," he said. Eleanor listened, offering guidance drawn from decades of experience. "Healing starts with forgiveness of others and yourself." Their conversation flowed into plans. Marcus would join a support group, and Eleanor volunteered to tutor Lily in reading. Days turned to weeks, and the bond grew. But one evening, as Eleanor sorted old photos, she stumbled upon a picture from her early teaching years. There, in the back row, was a boy with familiar eyes, Marcus's father, perhaps. The resemblance was uncanny. Her mind raced. Could Marcus be connected to her past in ways she hadn't imagined? Shaken, she set the photo aside, but the question lingered, adding layers of intrigue to their budding friendship. Eleanor's life, once quiet, now pulsed with renewed vitality, proving that even at 89, one could still learn, teach, and transform. The revelation from the old photograph haunted Eleanor through sleepless nights, its implications weaving a web of uncertainty around her newfound connections. She stared at the faded image, a class of rambunctious third graders from 1985, and there, scowling at the camera, was a boy named Derek Marcus's spitting image. Could it be? Derek had been one of her more challenging students, expelled after repeated fights, his home life a nightmare of neglect. Eleanor had tried to help, but he slipped away, lost to the system. Determined to uncover the truth, Eleanor visited the local archives the next day, her steps purposeful despite the ache in her joints. The librarian, an old colleague, helped her pull records. Yes, Derek Thompson. Wait, Thompson? The same last name as Clara, Sarah's grandmother. But Clara had been in a different class, years earlier. As Eleanor dug deeper, a twist emerged. Derek was Clara's nephew, abandoned by his parents and briefly in her care. The family ties tangled like roots underground. This discovery hit Eleanor like a second slap, but softer, laced with regret. Had her failure with Derek rippled down to Marcus? She confided in Sarah over lunch, showing her the photo. Sarah's eyes widened. Uncle Derek? He was my grandma's burden. Disappeared after jail time. If Marcus is his son. She trailed off, the pieces clicking. Together, they decided to approach Marcus delicately. At their next park meeting, Lily played nearby as Eleanor broached the subject. Marcus, tell me about your father. His face darkened. Deadbeat. Left when I was 5. Name was Derek. Confirmation hung heavy in the air. Eleanor revealed the photo, her voice trembling with emotion. I taught him, Marcus. Tried to help, but I couldn't reach him. If my shortcomings contributed to your pain. Tears welled in her eyes, the weight of decades pressing down. Marcus stared at the image, his expression a storm of confusion and sorrow. You knew him. He recounted fragments of his childhood, the anger inherited, the cycle of violence. But as Eleanor shared stories of Derek's potential, a boy who loved drawing, but hid it behind fists, something shifted. Maybe you planted seeds that took time to grow, Marcus said, his voice softening. This twist, introducing Derek as a phantom from the past, deepened the narrative of forgiveness. It wasn't just about the slap, it was about breaking chains across generations. Sarah, now a regular in their circle, suggested a family therapy session, bridging her nursing expertise with personal investment. As autumn leaves fell like confetti of change, Eleanor's home became a hub of healing. She hosted weekly gatherings, story time for Lily, discussions for Marcus and Sarah. One evening, Marcus brought drawings his own, inspired by childhood memories. Dad used to sketch too, he admitted. Eleanor encouraged him, seeing echoes of Derek's untapped talent. But amid the progress, a subplot emerged with an unexpected character. Mr. Harlan, the park's elderly groundskeeper, who had witnessed the slap. He approached Eleanor one misty morning, his cap in hand. Ma'am, I've been watching you. That day, it reminded me of my own regrets. Harlan confessed to a past of anger, having struck his son years ago, leading to estrangement. Your calm words? They hit me too. Harlan's revelation added a layer of communal healing. He joined the group, sharing war stories from Vietnam that fueled his rage and how nature had soothed him. His presence emphasized the story's humanistic value. No one is beyond redemption, and empathy ripples outward. Eleanor, invigorated, started a small community workshop at the library, Stories of Second Chances. Attendees shared tales of pain and pardon, with Marcus as the first guest speaker. He spoke haltingly of the slap, the tears, and the transformation. One woman's kindness cracked my shell, he said, glancing at Eleanor with gratitude. Yet, challenges arose. Marcus's ex-wife, hearing of his changes, contested custody more fiercely, accusing him of instability. Eleanor wrote a heartfelt letter to the court, vouching for his growth. Sarah testified too, her professional voice lending weight. The hearing was tense, but the judge, moved by the narratives, granted supervised visits. Lily's joy at reuniting with her father was a pinnacle of emotion. Daddy, read to me like Grandma Eleanor does, she begged. As Marcus obliged, his voice steady, Eleanor watched with a full heart, the kitsch tin of legal battles yielding to tender moments. But the past wasn't done whispering. A letter arrived for Eleanor from Derek's sister, Clara's daughter, prompted by Sarah. It detailed Derek's final years, redemption in prison, where he taught art to inmates, crediting a long-ago teacher for sparking his passion. He mentioned you often, Mrs. Hayes. Said you saw the good in him. This closure brought Eleanor to her knees in quiet sobs, the humanistic thread tightening. Her influence, though delayed, had endured. She shared the letter with Marcus, who wept anew. You saved him too, in a way. And now me. As winter approached, blanketing the park in frost, the group planned a holiday gathering. Harlan decorated the bench with lights, symbolizing hope in darkness. Laughter filled the air as stories flowed, each person a testament to resilience. Eleanor's reflections deepened. At 89, she had faced violence, uncovered ghosts, and forged family from strangers. The slap, once a wound, became a catalyst for profound change, underscoring that calm words could indeed make attackers and the world cry with awakening compassion. With winter's chill settling in, Eleanor's world expanded beyond the park, drawing in more souls touched by her quiet revolution. The community workshop grew, attracting locals eager for connection. One newcomer, a middle-aged woman named Rita, shared a story of domestic abuse, her voice quivering. I slapped my own child once, she confessed, in a moment of despair. Eleanor's response, embracing her, without judgment, echoed the park incident, reinforcing themes of empathy over retribution. Marcus thrived under this umbrella of support. He landed a job at a garage, his mechanical skills shining, and began art classes, channeling inherited talents. Lily flourished too, her grades improving with Eleanor's tutoring. But a fresh twist arrived unexpectedly. During a workshop, Harlan revealed a secret. I knew your husband, Mrs. Hayes, he said privately. We served together in Nam. He saved my life once. This disclosure floored Eleanor. Harlan described the battlefield heroism of her late husband, James, details she had never heard. He talked about you constantly as anchor. Enclosed was a medal James had earned, which Harlan had kept as a talisman. The revelation reframed Eleanor's widowhood, infusing old grief with pride and closure. It also bonded Harlan closer, turning him from peripheral figure to integral family. As snow blanketed the town, holiday preparations brought kitsch tin highs and lows. Marcus invited his mother Derek's ex-wife for a Christmas dinner at Eleanor's, a bold step toward mending. The woman, frail and remorseful, arrived bearing gifts. I failed my son, she admitted over cocoa. Eleanor, drawing from her well of wisdom, facilitated dialogue, tears flowing as generations confronted pains. Sarah, meanwhile, faced her own turmoil. A demanding job led to burnout. I help others, but who's helping me? She confided. Eleanor organized a surprise. The group pitched in for a spa day, reminding Sarah of self-care's importance. This subplot highlighted balance, adding emotional depth. One stormy night, crisis struck. Marcus relapsed into anger during a custody call, slamming the phone. He showed up at Eleanor's door, distraught. I'm no better than my dad. She calmed him with stories of her own stumbles. Times she raised her voice at students, regretting it. We all falter, but we rise. Her words, steady as ever, quelled his storm, making him cry not from rage, but release. The new year dawned with promise. Eleanor's health, however, began to wane, a persistent cough signaling frailty. The group rallied. Sarah arranged checkups. Marcus handled chores. Harlan shared herbal remedies from his garden. Lily even drew get-well cards, her innocence a balm. Amid this, an article in the local paper spotlighted Eleanor. 89-year-old teacher turns assault into advocacy. Reporters interviewed her, amplifying her message. Violence stems from unseen wounds, she said. Heal them with understanding. The piece went viral, drawing letters from strangers sharing similar tales. One letter stood out from a prison inmate claiming to be Derek's cellmate. He died peacefully, speaking of redemption. Enclosed was a sketch Derek had made. A teacher at a blackboard, light surrounding her. Eleanor framed it, a poignant artifact. As spring buds emerged, symbolizing renewal, the group planned a park memorial for lost loved ones. James, Clara, Derek. They planted a tree, each adding soil with whispered thanks. Marcus spoke. Mrs. Hayes, you didn't just make me cry that day, you made me see. Eleanor's response encapsulated the humanism. We're all connected in this tapestry of life. One thread strengthens the whole. But fate introduced another layer. Rita, from the workshop, confessed she was the stranger who had anonymously funded Eleanor's workshops. Your story inspired me to give back. This benefactor twist elevated the narrative, showing how inspiration cycles. Through it all, Eleanor's calm endured, her words a lighthouse in tempests. At 89, she embodied that age is no barrier to impact, and forgiveness isn't weakness, it's the ultimate strength. Spring blossomed fully, mirroring the flourishing bonds in Eleanor's circle. The memorial tree thrived, its leaves whispering stories of resilience. Marcus gained full custody, a triumphant climax after months of effort. Lily moved in, her laughter filling his home, and Eleanor's tutoring sessions became family affairs. Yet, Eleanor's health declined further. A diagnosis of pneumonia tested their unity. Hospitalized, she lay frail but spirited, visitors rotating like guardians. Sarah coordinated care, Harlan brought flowers from the park, Rita organized fundraisers. Marcus read to her daily, poetry echoing her own readings. In quiet moments, Eleanor reflected on her journey, from depression-era child to transformative teacher. The slap, now distant, had ignited this chapter, proving adversity's potential for good. Life's greatest lessons come unannounced, she told visitors. A surprising visitor arrived, the judge from Marcus's custody case, moved by the newspaper article. Your influence swayed my decision, he admitted. Reminded me of my own mentor. This encounter underscored Eleanor's far-reaching impact, adding a twist of judicial humanity. As Eleanor recovered slowly, discharged to home care, the group evolved into a surrogate family. They celebrated her 90th birthday in the park, under the tree. Gifts poured in, a scrapbook from Lily, art from Marcus, a quilt from Harlan stitched with meaningful patches. But emotion peaked when Marcus proposed to Sarah mid the festivities, kneeling with a ring. You've both saved me, he said. Sarah, tearful, accepted, crediting Eleanor as matchmaker. The engagement amplified joy, a humanistic crescendo of love born from chaos. Eleanor's speech that day encapsulated the saga. At 89, a stranger slapped me, but my words made him cry and us all grow. Remember, kindness disarms, empathy heals. As summer warmed, they planned the wedding at the park, full circle. Eleanor, walking with a cane, officiated symbolically, her voice strong. Vows echoed forgiveness and growth, tears flowing freely. In the aftermath, Eleanor's legacy solidified. She penned a memoir, Calm in the Storm, with proceeds funding community programs. Readers worldwide wrote, sharing how her story changed them. One final twist. A DNA test confirmed Marcus as Derek's son, but also revealed distant relation to Eleanor through marriage line's fate's intricate weave. As autumn returned, Eleanor sat on her bench, content. The slap had faded, replaced by unbreakable bonds. At 90, she knew. True power lies in words that touch souls, making even attackers weep with newfound hope.